to JermaineAuNatural. I am Jermaine Ryan. And it is the last day of Black History Month. It is Sunday, February the 28th, and it is only right that because it is the last day and because it is Black History Month, that I give you all two Black History apiece every month. Like it only is right? For the second person that I'm highlighting this month, this person is an avid reader, a public speaker, an entrepreneur, and many of us have had this person in our home for years and years and years. This person also has the #2 best-selling game in the world, the whole wide world. It is a game that, depending on how many people are playing, can take 2 to 3 hours. It has definitely erupted in some fights and some arguments.
She has to be cheating because every round.
But it is fun all the same. Who am I talking about? I am talking about Kenneth Johnson, the creator of Phase 10. Listen, I done had this game for so long, this box has been through it. That is who I am highlighting for the second piece of history this month. So, #1, it was interesting when I found out that, it was a Black person that created Phase 10, but then it was like, a double when I found out he was from here. Like, he was born and raised in the D. So, person from my hometown that's out here creating things and definitely making waves. Now, growing up here in Detroit, Ken and his family, they grew up playing board games and card games. I wasn't able to find anything on a specific date for his birthday. Based from what I've deduced, he was born somewhere in the late 50s, early 60s, somewhere in that area. So he was alive when the Detroit riots or the Detroit revolt happened. He was here for that. If you don't know what that is, just look it up. Woo, what a time. I wasn't here for it, but woo, what a time. Civil rights era, so kind of give you an idea. But he and his family were here in the city. He grew up playing games with his parents and with his siblings, and this became a part of their family's culture. Throughout that time, because they always played them, him and his siblings eventually started to develop and create their own games, which is something that most of us as kids do. Kids are just crazy imaginary with some of the things that they dream up and how they create things and do some of the games. And they were just like kids just like all of us were. They created their own games. One of the first games that he and his siblings created when he was around 12 years old was called Dice Ball. It was a baseball board game. Because they created this game, it was a regular game that they played as a family. As the years went on and as Ken got older, he decided, well, hey, me and my family, we enjoy this game. I should see if I can make some money off of this and see if there are other people that would want to enjoy the game. So with that first game, he actually did license it and he did try to get it sold. At this time, I believe just out of high school, so we're talking about 18 years old, maybe 19 years old, still living here in the city with his family, having this idea to market this game and get it out there. He went to who was, the biggest retailer in the country, the store of stores, like the place you went to go shopping. Who was that? When was this? So at this point now, we're looking at late 70s, early 80s. Who was the store of stores around that time? Just a guess. I'll give it a few seconds just for you to kind of think. The store of stores that was the biggest in the country. Kmart, AKA Super K, AKA Big K. And from what I found, that there are still about 32 to 40 roughly stores that are still open, and they have an online site. So by Kmart being the biggest retailer in the country and by its headquarters also being located right here in the state of Michigan, of course that was the option to go to. So Kmart at the time, the headquarters was right outside of the city. I heard an interview, which will also be linked down below, along with any pop-ups so that you can listen and watch after this one. From what he said in the interview, it was basically 5 miles from his house. So it was located in Troy, Michigan, which If you're closer to the edge of the city, yeah, 5 miles to the house. So of course, that was the first stop in trying to get the game distributed. Ken reached out to the buyer for Kmart, and the buyer was like, okay, yeah, nice idea. Send it. We'll let you know. Our people will contact your people. Ken was like, nah, bruh. So he was persistent. He stayed on him. And in the interview, he said, like, you know what? It would be better for me to show you the game and opposed to me just sending it to you. And just with persistence and with confidence, the buyer did invite him out to the headquarters, and he was able to show him the game. The game itself didn't do too well. That didn't work out, but the relationship was established, which is more important than actually having actual physical product. The fact that the trust is there, the relationship is established there, then that kind of gives you that bit of doorway to kind of throw things in and see what actually catches. 1982 comes around. We are in full swing of hip hop. New York is popping. We are getting into bright and colorful clothes. Haircuts are becoming more asymmetric. Like we're in the new era with the 80s. Swinging right into the new era was Ken Johnson and Phase 10. So Kmart liked the game. They were like, okay, we'll see what it do. We'll put it in a few stores. We'll see how it sells, and we'll let you know what happens with it. Well, the game was a hit. It was such a hit that they were like, let's put it in all of the stores. So Ken, at this point, being a young man, we're talking about 1920, was like, oh, okay. So all of the stores everywhere? Bet. So because he had this solid relationship with the buyer at Kmart, buyer was like, well, don't let me down. Like we're giving you the shot, young man. And he was like, I got you. Called the homies over, was like, hey, they want this game. We need to produce it. So Ken, like most of the multi-billion-dollar brands that have started here in the US, was no different. It started right in his parents' basement. Him and his friends are producing, they were making the cars, like they're doing everything in the parents' basement. All of it. And they were getting it out to Kmart. In the interview, he was saying like these semi-trucks were coming, trying to pick up the stuff and dropping things off. And the neighbors were like, why are they getting all these semi-trucks at their house? Because of the growth and because of how well the game was selling, Ken had to get up out the house. We can't semi-trucks on residential streets like it don't. So he did eventually move into a warehouse where he was able to produce things on a much easier and economical and better scale in order to more efficiently get it out to Kmart. Now, as the game is still doing really well and it's in Kmart, again, Ken was like, you know what? I need to go ahead and license this game, which, very similar to what he did with Dice Baseball. Let me go ahead and get the licensing. Let me go ahead and trademark this. So we have this young man, 19, 20 years old, that have this pure entrepreneurial spirit. Along with that spirit, also the smarts and the knowledge to do licensing. So I had to look up licensing because I kind of was familiar with, but not entirely familiar with what it was and with trademarking and things like that. So the definition of licensing is, it is defined as licensing occurs when a licensee obtains permission from a licensor to produce and sell its products. The licensee therefore obtains the rights to sell the product, usually required to pay the licensor a royalty fee. So if I created Phase 10, I am and I license it to myself, and I trademark the name Phase 10 and what the box looked like and all the colors. So this is mine, okay? Mine. And you come to me and say, hey, Jermaine, I love this game. I randomly somehow played it, and I have a store and I want to sell Phase 10 in my store. I would be like, okay, well, you know what? Come on, Momo.
Oh, don't mind that. It's just the cat.
I would say, absolutely. Absolutely, you can sell my game in your store, and for all of your sales, I'm gonna collect royalties from the sales. So there's one thing to be an entrepreneur, there's another thing to be a smart entrepreneur, and he was the package, along with just having the drive and everything else that comes with being out there and grinding and being on your hustle. He was cleaning up. Other things that I did discover and I did read about when it comes to licensing and trademarking and copywriting is that with licensing of a product will last you the entire lifetime of the inventor. So if I license something and I live to be 99 years old, then this will always be mine. And then it continues on for another 70 to 75 years. So therefore, it would then continue on to, if I have children or family, or it would carry on to being theirs. What are we doing here? Generational wealth. That is what he created. Not to mention, when it comes to trademarking the name of whatever your product is, that lasts
forever.
So of course you want to keep it up, but forever. Not your lifetime, not your kids' lifetime.
Forever.
Covering all bases when it came to his product. Now, since Phase 10 was doing so well just over this long period of time, he has this solid relationship with Kmart. He's in all of the stores. He has the licensing for the product. Like, everything is looking good. We now need to talk about expanding. So Ken got with a company named Fundex. Along with his licensing, they were able to come together and work out a deal where he was able to negotiate his royalties. He also negotiated getting a commission. He also negotiated a sign-on bonus, as though he works for the company, but he don't work for the company. And he also worked out getting commission for every sale of Phase 10. He also was able to retain the IP, which is the intellectual property. Now, what that means, and I'm going to read this, it means that anyone that sells Phase 10 cannot change the colors, the name, nothing, even down to the directions. Nothing can be changed without first giving Ken a call and being like, hey, so you have to take the game exactly the way that he made it.
There he is!
The collaboration, the partnership with Ken and Fundex actually went on for a span of 20 years. Some things happened, business wasn't looking right, and Ken was like, the two parted ways. At this point, think of, who's a good example? Imagine if Dwayne Wade or LeBron James were suddenly like, hey, I'm a free agent. Like, imagine. So at this point, because he's no longer attached to Fundex, he was a free agent, and from what I read and from the interview, pretty much everybody was after him. Everybody worldwide was after him because of how well the product was and how well it was selling. Everybody wanted in. Ken eventually settled with Mattell, who now produces Phase 10. Him still withholding his licensing and his trademarks and his copyrights. So Mattell does produce Phase 10. Now, as time has gone on, because now we've jumped ahead from the 80s, like another 20 years or so. So now we are into the 2000s. As time has changed, needs have changed, everything's changed with time. So the game itself did evolve. And of course, variations happen. So some of the variations that have branched from the original Phase 10 were, there was a Phase 10 Masters Edition. There was a Phase 10 Twist. There was a Phase 10 Deluxe, which is no longer in production. And, and to bring it a lot more current, there's actually a Phase 10 app. Because apps are now the way of the world for everything. Also to note, there was a Phase 10 dice. This happened, I believe, I think it was like in the 90s, I believe he said, or early 2000s. So the Phase 10 dice version was created by some game creators in Ann Arbor, also here in Michigan, keeping it all home. And they created this game, and basically because of licensing, they had to get a hold of Ken and say, hey, we have this version of the game that we've created. We'd like to sell it. Ken looked at it and was like, looks good to me. Let's sell it. So because of how he set his stuff up for himself. They created this game and produced it, and all he did was basically get checks in the mail. He just got checks in the mail from this game that he did not even create. So, generational wealth. Now to play into more the acknowledgement of Ken as an entrepreneur and what he has done with his career, in 2012,
What?
on the 30th anniversary of Phase 10, he was nominated for a Taggy, which in the toy and gaming world is equivalent to getting an Oscar. And from what I read, he actually does still live here in Michigan, but he is now in Franklin, Michigan, which I believe is west from Detroit. I was supposed to look this up beforehand, and I didn't, with his wife and son. Now, in addition to Phase 10, though Phase 10 was his biggest hit, if you will, he did go on to produce other games, and he is the CEO of a couple other companies. So some of the other games that he produced were Word Masters, Word Quest, Pocket Pictures, and Bible Trivia. And if it's not already out, then it should be coming out. It is the app named Stack Your Stash. And the two additional companies that he owns is the installment. It is a software provider to app developers, and the Grand Legacy Forum, which is a new development. So that is who this month's Black History A Piece Every Month was about. The creator and owner of Phase 10, and also, like I said, another fellow Detroiter like myself. So of course, I will have all information down below. He has also written a book, which I will also have linked down below. And make sure that you check out the last Black History I did a couple of weeks ago about Black History Month itself. So comment down below. Let me know if you have heard of Ken Johnson, if this is a history, a background of a person that you already knew. Let me know in the comments. All right, make sure that you like this video, press subscribe. Please feel free to share this out, as someone else may not know who actually created Phase 10, this game that we've been playing for decades. Punch the notification bell so that you can stay abreast of when I post my videos. And again, thank you for tuning into JermaineAuNatural.